So let's get started. Um, Hello, everyone. Thanks for watching this video. So today we are going to cover the Salesforce B2B Solution Architect Certification Exam. Salesforce has released this exam in mid of 2021, and I passed this exam last year in November 2021. So there are not so many people who are yet certified in the exam. So it's always exciting to talk about this. So when I passed the exam, I had received many requests to create a blog post that could help others in preparation for the exam. Unfortunately, I did not have a lot of time to create a blog post, so I'm creating a video now. Now, how we are going to do this, let me quickly share my screen and we will go through some of the content here. Okay, great. So let's get started then. So how we are going to cover, so we are going to talk about the exam itself. We will see how to study, then what to study in terms of the content, and also tips and tricks that actually help me in passing the exam. So before we jump into the content itself, just maybe we can spend 1 or 2 minutes here. So my name is Jayant Joshi. I have more than 16 years of overall experience. I started my career with Siebel CRM, but then later switched to Salesforce. For a couple of years, I was in Siebel. So 12 plus years in Salesforce. I am working on the multi-cloud, projects and program. Trying to get the expertise. I won't say I'm an expert, but I'm trying to get the expertise. I'm currently working with Accenture, but I have worked with Brilio, PwC, Deloitte, and IBM in the past. I do have 16 Salesforce certification, right? This includes acquiring the B2B and B2C Solution Architect certifications in the near past. But I have also done all the technical architecture certification, not yet CTA, but probably in future, I believe. So in terms of the skills, Salesforce multi-cloud, B2B and B2C implementation, I do a lot of cross-cloud architecture and also integration architecture, like integration evaluation, creating the strategy, cross-cloud architecture strategy for the customer. And I also work on pre-sale solutioning proposals, etc. In the last 2-3 years, I have also worked on some of the commerce project on both the B2B as well as B2C side. So that was also pretty exciting to learn something new and have hands-on experience in that. Okay, so with that, let's go to the exam. About the exam itself. So as you can see, Salesforce have 2 paths. One is the B2B Solution Architect and the other is B2C Solution Architect. The prerequisite for both are different. So the prerequisite for B2B Solution Architect exam is the Application Architect credential, which basically covers the Platform App Builder, Platform Developer 1, Data Architect, and Sharing Visibility Architecture Architect. About the exam, so like other Salesforce exam, it has 60 multiple choice questions and few non-scored items. So you can even get 65 questions. Passing score is 58%, but even with 58%, it's not so easy because it's a pretty I would say complex exam. Time allotted is 120 minutes, which I found not to be sufficient because some of the questions are very lengthy, right? I would say there are many questions which are very lengthy. You have to completely read through those questions, like long text, and then try to evaluate what could be the potential solution for those questions. So important point to note is that there could be multiple answers which are correct, but you have to choose from the best one, right? So it could be the fact that there are multiple best possible answers and you will get confused. You have to choose the best. Um, and that really makes the exam very tricky, right? So because it's difficult to eliminate the incorrect answer. One certification which is not mentioned here, but it's good to have, is the integration architecture certification, because there's a lot of integrations involved, not only between the B2B products, but also the external system, right? So it's good to have certification. I would say I would recommend that. One thing you need to really understand: this is not a product exam, right? First of all, you should really know: do you really want to do this certification, right? I mean, it's not like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing all the certification, let's do this, right? It's not like that. I think you have to immerse yourself in this journey. You should see some value out of this certification, right? So if you are, let's say, working on marketing cloud, right? And you're a marketing cloud expert and you don't want to go into, let's say, cross cloud architecture, then don't do it, right? Why to do this certification? I think if you really want to be a solution architect who work on multiple products and this cross cloud journey, then go for it, and then you can immerse yourself in this. We will basically talk about it in coming slides. Now, how to study, right? So there's no surprise element here. So Trailhead is the best place to start. It's provides you with most of the content that is related to this exam. And we're going to talk about the content in a minute. But I found Trailhead to be pretty comprehensive, right? You can as well, if you are a Salesforce partner and you have enough time to actually go through the courses. So there are 32 courses as of now, I believe, which you can do in partner learning camp. Those are also interesting to do, but then either do the Trailheads trails or do the PLCs. You can also do, if you have a lot of time, you can do whatever you want to do. But personally, for me, it was a combination of Trailhead, PLC, and my work experience, which basically helped me in passing the exam. But the experience could be different for different people, right? So that's the case. Now, in terms of what to study, right? So what to study? So this is the exam topic split, right? So you have the discovery and customer success, right? 25%. So that's essentially 15 questions. Then you have data governance and integration, 26%, around 16 questions. And then the design part, 29% or 17 questions. Delivery is 12% or 7 questions. And operationalize the solution, 8% or around 5 questions, right? That's the split. Now, it is up to you. How do you want to do it? Maybe you can focus on 3 topics like discovery and customer success, data governance and integration and design. And you already have pretty solid, more than 75%, right? You need to pass with 58%. So you can skip the rest if you want, or you can have a combination of 2 solid topics plus maybe delivery and maybe operations, right? Operationalize the solution, 8%. So it's up to you. It's not necessary to go to 100% of the content, right? That's not the idea. I think the idea is to really understand the use cases, how the cross-cloud architecture looks like, how these lengthy journey, which are the different products and personas involved, right? That's the idea. Now, if you go a bit deeper, right, there are certain topics, if you go one level deep. So for discovery and customer success, right, what are you going to talk about? And I think that's, most of the people who are in consulting space or who basically work closely with the customer can easily relate to the questions that are part of this section. So essentially for this section, the exam tests your knowledge on gathering the requirement around the B2B multi-cloud solution. So essentially, if you have already done some form of discovery, right, you already know how the discovery phase of the project looks like, right? So you will have to document the business needs. You need to understand the customer's centric journey. You need to define the current system landscape. You need to understand and then, create these artifacts to define the current system landscape. And of course, you have to create the 2B architecture, right, for the multi-cloud solution. You also have to create the roadmap for the customer towards the B2B journey. Think about it, large-scale transformation program takes a long time, right? They take 2 years, 3 years, sometimes 5 years, right? So you cannot implement everything at once. So you have to prioritize and then basically create the roadmap for the customer, right? What should go first? What should go next? What should go after that? Like that. Then with the data governance integration, as I said, 26%, around 16 questions. So this section is going to test your knowledge around, let's say, defining the flow across the multi-cloud products. How do you integrate the B2B systems, right? What are the tools and techniques to connect these systems, right? So you should have a good understanding of the integration patterns, connectors, maybe ESB, middleware solution like MuleSoft, right? You have to define the overall governance, right, in the context of B2B multi-cloud solution. Think about it, what are the different operating models, right? How do you define your data migration strategy? So all those things are part of the data governance and integration. Now on the design side, 29% on 17 questions. So you should have a basic understanding of the B2B products, right? So Salesforce categorized the product in two groups primarily. One is the B2C and the other is B2B, right? So you should have understanding at least, related to these B2B use cases for the products like Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Manufacturing Cloud, right? Revenue Cloud, CPQ billing, field service, right? Einstein, so Tableau CRM, for example, B2B commerce, right? And there are other products also which part of the B2B portfolio. You don't have to be an expert, right? There's no expectation that you have to be an expert on these products. So you don't need to understand each and every feature of the product, right? But I think you need to understand how that fits into these B2B use cases. And then, of course, you have to define the, given a set of business requirement, right? You have to define the functional as well as technical solution. So we are talking about the complex B2B use cases. So there could be different design options, right? You can think as a solution architect, and you should be at least familiar with the design option, right? You should know these design options. What are the pros and cons? What are the risks involved, right? So that the appropriate Salesforce multi-cloud solution could be framed. In case if certain use case or part of the use case is cannot be solved using these products features, then you also have to have some understanding of the App Exchange solutions, right? So if there is no feature that matches within the Salesforce clouds, then you can also suggest the App Exchange solution. And of course, logically, once you have done with the design, the delivery part comes, right? The weightage is not so much, so it's only 12% or 7 questions, right? So, so this is all about how to deliver a multi-cloud solution, right, using Salesforce products. So this involves knowledge around planning, resources, scope creep, right? It also talks about the agile way of delivery, which is typically nowadays used by most of the companies, right, while doing the project implementation. So you should have knowledge around the agile methodologies, Scrum framework, perhaps also Kanban, right? You should have understanding the application life cycle. There are a few questions also related to DevOps. You should have familiarity with testing within the implementation. Although not a lot of questions are asked for it, but I think from this learning perspective, I think it becomes very comprehensive if you go through these sections also. one more thing which is important here is the how do you manage the demands, right? So how can you avoid scope creep? How do you prioritize the requirement and do not jeopardize the let's say the project overall objective, right? So that's important. The final section is operationalize the solution. So 8% or around 5 questions. So how do you enable users to adopt to the multi-cloud solution, right? So essentially focus on change enablement, trainings, your key KPIs, user adoption metrics, right? How do you roll out multi-cloud solution to, let's say, different business units or different geographies, right? That's important. Um, Also, it talks about the center of excellence. Or what is the need of center of excellence? What are the people involved and within a center of excellence? What are the duties of center of excellence, right? Why do you need that? And also to how to improve the solution to ensure business benefits so that they are continuously realized, right? So those things are essentially part of this last section. Again, I mean, you have to play smartly, right? If you don't want to invest a lot of time, then perhaps it's a good idea to take few solid topics and cover at least 75, 76% um, of the course material, and the remaining could be left around. You have 58% to pass, right? But it's also good to understand the delivery as well as the operation part. Perfect. So that's basically the about what to study. Now let's try to understand what worked best for me, right? Um, this is very interesting, you know. So first of all, if you're really interested in going through the solution architect journey, then show the active interest, right? Because I mean, this is not a product certification, right? This is more about cross cloud architecture, right? Um, it's about the use cases which spans across multiple, let's say, departments, multiple products, right? Uh, Multiple journeys sometimes, right? So you need to understand that product features itself, not all product features are so important. You need to understand a certain part of, let's say, sales cloud, right? You talk about, let's say, um, forecasting, so you should know how the forecasting work, right? In Salesforce, you do not necessarily need to know everything about sales cloud, or you do not necessarily need to understand the entire CPQ part, right? But you should understand that, do you really want to go through this path or not, right? It's not like a good to have. I think if you really want to do this, then do it. um, why I was comparing with CTA, right? CTA is like a pinnacle exam, right? And it's a journey. It's very hard to pass CTA, let's say, in 3 months or even 6 months, right? I mean, you should have solid experience. At the same time, you should have to go through that journey, right? Similarly, for B2B and B2C, that's my experience. It could be different for different people, is that you have to dedicate time to really understand. And this is going to help you. Most of the projects are either B2B or a B2C. Yeah, there could be B2B to C also, but typically it's either B2B or B2C. So you should definitely show genuine interest in going through the B2B path. Now, experience does matter, right? So if you already have done the discovery workshops, right? If you understand the typical, patterns of the challenges faced by the customer, and you can easily identify the patterns, right? I mean, once you have done like 4, 5, 6 projects, you will understand what are the typical challenges. And of course, for that particular customer, you have to uniquely define their challenges also. But I think conducting workshops really help. Documenting the requirements is important. Evaluating the existing architecture, creating the to be architecture, looking at the problems from different angles, right? And typically for every complex problem, there are multiple stakeholders involved. There might be multiple departments involved. There could be multiple challenges. So you have to look into these problems from different angles, and then you will understand how the problem can be solved. Then you need to identify, what Salesforce product fits into a particular use case, right? what are the actors involved on each of these steps within the use case or journey, right? Um, which of the products these actors are going to use, right? That's also important step while doing this evaluation. Then, of course, defining the 2B architecture, I think that's very important. You also have to verify the multi-cloud solution you are proposing, let's say iteratively, that it should also meet your customer expectation, right? So that's very important. Understanding of B2B product licensing, it's pretty complex, and it should, you have to really optimize the licensing, right? That you should understand licensing pretty well. Also, what I found interesting is having a basic understanding of important industries, right? For B2B context, manufacturing, automotive, right? Because B2B solutions are typically for these industry customers. Now, reading through most of the core use cases, now there are hundreds of use cases when you talk about B2B. There are some core use cases, and then there are industry-specific use cases. So, for example, right, how do you define the customer-centric data strategy, right? How do you model their account? How do you model your contact? How the journey looks like. You need to understand that. And B2B context, sometimes account modeling itself is it's a large topic, right? So you need to understand that. How do you do B2B marketing, right? So of course you can use Pardot, but you need to understand what are the core concept of B2B marketing, right? How do you integrate Salesforce with external system, right? How do you integrate ERP into the B2B direct and indirect sales strategy? I think that's also very important. And we are talking about multi-cloud, right? So the asset lifecycle. How do you manage multi-cloud asset lifecycle, right? So these are, of course, they are related to service. They are related to field service lightning. Then what is best practices around multi-cloud pricing and product management, content creation, multi-cloud forecasting, right, for the sales team. I mean, there are lots of use cases, right? So you need to have, I think, good idea around the around these use cases, and Trailhead will help you in understanding these use cases. The next one is the solution kit, right? So Salesforce provide reference material that you can use for decision making, right? So essentially, it's a framework, you can say, which provides best practices, your considerations, the architecture diagrams, the guides, right, which actually helps you in identifying the right solution, right? It will basically guide you in terms of getting to the right solution, right? So at this point of time, for B2B, for B2C, there are lots of solution kits, but for B2B, there are 5, which includes card to cash, card to quote, syncing product and pricing, mass reordering, etc. Right. So this is actually a good start for you to implement some of the use cases. Then also it's good to, as I said, right, automotive industry, right? I think manufacturing. So you need to have understanding some of the industrial use cases, right? So for example, for B2B manufacturing, how do you manage loyalty, right? How do you do the loyalty administration, for example, or the life cycle of loyalty? Or for an industry like insurance, how do you manage claims, right? How do you manage leasing options for renter truck, right, for industrial truck manufacturer? And there could be a lot of different use cases. You don't necessarily need to know everything, but based on experience, you might already know many of these use cases, right? But you need to connect it with your journeys, and you need to connect it with your right Salesforce product. What is going to solve which problem within that particular use case? Then, yeah, learning of the multi-cloud. So as I said, right, B2B portfolio is pretty pretty big. So you have Sales Cloud for lead creation, managing the lead life cycle, account and contact management, activity management, opportunity life cycle, forecasting, right? Activities, right? And also reports, of course, right? So that at least basic understanding of these, because for every customer you will have some form of these processing. Then Revenue Cloud for and Revenue Cloud is essentially your CPQ as well as billing. So Revenue Cloud for products and pricing administration, code generation, life cycle of the code, the orders, CPQ orders, discounts, pricing, service contracts, billing, etc. Right? Then Service Cloud for typical case management, assignment, capturing the cases from different channels, omni-channel routing, service analytics, etc. Field service, right? For example, for service appointments, creation of the work orders, etc. Manufacturing Cloud, typically for defining the sales agreement, account-based forecasting, B2B commerce for your shopping experience, taking the orders, providing online sales service, etc. Pardot for marketing automation, right? So lead nurturing, sending the promotional emails, etc. And of course, MuleSoft for the integration needs. If you want to connect to, let's say, SAP or Oracle or some other backend system, right? So MuleSoft could also be used for that. Salesforce also provide the product connectors, right? So on the B2B side, it's a CPQ and B2B connector, and we are going to talk about it. Integration area. Integration area is one large area, and which is always will be the part of B2B and B2C project until you're a very small company which basically does everything in very few systems. You will always have integrations to be done, integration work to be done within the context of B2B or B2C. So on the B2B side, there are connectors like CPQ and B2B commerce. These connectors are very useful for quick integration, right? With the data between different Salesforce cloud, and these are not productized, so there's no service or there's no support team available. But the good part is that you can always extend. So it already provides you with a basic integration, which you can extend it and enhance it, right? So it's more of a you can say it's more of a unmanaged kind of package. Then MuleSoft, right? So I think it's good to have understanding of integration layer, right? Like a global integration layer, where you can fit, let's say, a product like MuleSoft, right? So you need to understand. It's always good actually to understand what is MuleSoft. MuleSoft provides hundreds of connectors, right? So it's good to understand what are the connectors, for example, for SAP or Oracle, or even connecting different Salesforce cloud, right? It's always good to understand, the process API and the other API layers that MuleSoft have. Of course, then you also need to understand the analytics layer, right? So Tableau CRM for your analytics need is also going to help you. So that pretty much covers most of these areas, right? There are some additional things which you actually should cover. So lead to cash life cycle, and it's a large process, and you can split into multiple parts, and it covers multiple products in this lead to cash cycle journey, right? So Sales Cloud, Revenue Cloud, billing, right? And of course, other connectors are part of this. SAP is also part of this process. So you need to understand that. One important thing, when we're talking about multi-cloud, both in the context of B2B or B2C, you need to understand the data model, right? So Salesforce, for especially for the B2B, you know, most of the products are built on top of Salesforce platform, right? But the underlying data model is different, okay? And there is a need to connect these data model, right? For example, you can take the orders, right? So direct orders can be created from B2B, yeah, and then it will be synchronized for, especially for the case where the customer asks for a negotiated pricing, right? At that point of time, this information should be synced back to CPQ, okay? And then CPQ basically creates a quotation, and that quotation is basically sent back to the customer, right? Then he can place the order, or even the sales rep can place the order. So the underlying data structures are different, but this needs to be synchronized, right? So you need to understand the data model, B2B. I think that should be good understanding of data model B2B, data model CPQ, and also, let's say, field service lightning, right? That's also you should understand. You should also have a basic understanding of overall billing concepts, and also, the features of Salesforce billing as part of the lead to cash cycle. On the Salesforce platform side, you should have a good understanding of multi-tenant architecture. There won't be a lot of questions asked, right? But it's always good to know governor limits, large data volumes. I think that's also pretty good to know. And then what are the different data archiving strategies, right? So with that, I think it becomes far more easier to actually pass the exam. Of course, the past experience is going to help, right? I have seen the people who have passed this exam, they are either technical architects, they are enterprise architect, they are solution architects, right? And they do have some good exposure to many of these topics already, right? Especially, I think most of them have already done the discovery session, right? So that part, 25%, right? That is already covered already. So for me also, working directly with the B2B customers in the last 8 to 10 years, that really helped me. So I've been working mostly with a customer in Germany and also earlier in US. That experience helped me, consulting experience helped. Project management, right? So the delivery part, this section helped, right? If you have experience around managing the agile project, if you understand the Scrum way of actually delivery, that helps scope creep, right? And various other topics related to project management that help. Integration architecture, as I said, so it comprises a large chunk of questions that always help. And of course, the learning habits. Individually for me, I think the learning habits really help. So I passed 26 certifications. I was always in a continuous learning mode. That also helped me in passing the exam. So that's basically it. It's a complex exam. It's difficult, but it's not. I mean, it's still achievable. But I think you should really first analyze and evaluate if you really want to do this exam, right? So not everyone will basically give CTA. Not everyone will pass CTA, right? You have to decide on your own. Do you really want to do CTA? Similarly, on the solution architect journey, that's what I feel. Maybe there is a different opinion on that, but that's what I feel. If you really want to go this path and you want to work on as a solution architect in complex engagement, then go for the certification. I think it's very useful. Pretty good. So we have almost reached to the end of the session. So if you want to contact us, you can drop an email to architectjourneys@gmail.com. You can also subscribe to our channel, Architect Journeys. So we will be posting a lot of content related to Salesforce architecture, primarily on this channel. We will, I would say, primarily focused on Salesforce, but in between, we might also put you into, let's say, cross-architectural path, which involves Salesforce and also other technologies like GCP, AWS, etc. Okay, so thanks a lot for watching this video, and stay tuned for more architecture content. And see you next time. Thanks a lot.